The safety is off. There's a round in the chamber. This is Armed Alabama. Sponsored by McCoy Outdoor Company, Mobile's hometown full-line outdoor sporting products and gear store. An interactive talk show discussing self-defense, product reviews, shooting tips, safety, and more. Your calls, comments, and texts welcome at 343-0106. Now, here are your hosts, retired judge and certified NRA instructor Rusty Johnston and certified NRA law enforcement instructor Adam Strange.
They're gonna pry these guns right out of my hands when it comes to take them away. I believe in the rights that my father gave me when he signed the Constitution that day. No misguided president or crooked politician with a greasy pocket be spared. When a hard-working man gets tired of your cry, it's gonna rain rats, beware. Don't tell me I'm American free, you're not gonna take it away. I stand up to fight for my freedoms and rights, that's the price you'll have to pay. Don't tell me I'm American free, red-blooded to the core. You ain't ever had a fight in your life like a fight.
And U.S. law and Constitution with Judge Johnston.
And intergalactic law, you forgot to add that.
Yeah, I've been making note of it here. If you like to, you can see us on Facebook. We're broadcasting on our Facebook page, broadcasting live on Facebook, as well as here at the FM Talk 106.5 studios. And our Facebook page is Armed Alabama Radio, FM Talk 106.5. And when you go to our Facebook page, please like, save, and follow, and that way you'll be notified of any and all of our content, and of course when we go live when we're having our show. You can also check us out on Twitter, that's Armed Alabama 106.5, and we have a YouTube channel, and that's just simply Armed Alabama. Please go there and subscribe. And you get an opportunity, check out our website, and that's armedalabama.com. So if you missed any of our previous shows, you can go to our website and you can listen to those shows, and you can actually listen to them back to back to back.
It's about 120, I think, Adam.
120 shows.
Yeah.
Wow. But it's hard to believe because time has gone by so fast.
Oh, I know. And
Judge,
they can download those if they want, or just listen there.
Yeah, absolutely. And time has gone by really fast since you and I have started this show. We have been on the air for over 2 years.
It's kind of like being under anesthesia. The time goes real fast.
It does. So if you have any comments or questions for us here on the show tonight, by all means, this is your opportunity. You can give us a call here at the station, 251-343-0106. And you can call and text to that number. And that's 251-343-0106. And we actually get calls and texts on our previous shows from all over. We get calls from Florida, from West Florida, and to East Mississippi, and of course here in Mobile and Baldwin County. So definitely, if you have a question, you can call or text, and that number again is 251-343-0106. And again, we are simulcasting live on our Facebook page. So if you get an opportunity, definitely go there and check us out. And you can actually ask us questions and comments on our Facebook page, and we try to answer and get to those as well. And our Facebook page is Armed Alabama Radio, FM Talk 106.5.
Now, if you're from north of the Mason-Dixon line, except Missouri, we're just a little suspicious when you call in. But we know we have a lot of kindred spirits up there, so we'll take your call.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we thank you for tuning in. And if you like our show, we wouldn't have our show if it wasn't for our sponsors. And those are Dr. Justin Foster at Foster's Chiropractic of Tillman's Corner, McCoy Outdoors, they are our prime sponsor. Ace Hardware Stores at Spring Hill, Creola, and Moffett locations. The law office of Matt Green, Namath's Catering, Hanson Heating and Air, and of course Mike Ward's Liberty Safes, and Hunter Security. And Judge, did I miss
we
one?
got to add the law office of Steve Moore on Dearborn Street. Steve Moore is a personal injury attorney. That's all he does. Car wrecks, industrial accidents. I guess if your neighbor shot you accidentally, that would be one. So give Steve a call. Went to school with me. I know him well. He's a lawyer I trust. There are a lot of good lawyers in town, but some of those numbers you dial aren't really in Mobile, and Steve is in Mobile. So it's the Moore Law Firm, Steve Moore, and his nephew, Frederick Moore.
And if you have definitely again, if you have a comment or question you want answered here, give us a call at 251-343-0106. And also, if you would like to advertise your business here on Armed Alabama Radio, by all means, we love to have you. You can actually email me or the judge. You can email us, adam@armedalabama.com, or the judge at armedalabama.com. And speaking of calling, we have our first caller here tonight, and Thomas is calling from Theodore. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Thomas. I take it the good way. I couldn't have set you up any better because, you know, I think he's a good man and probably one of the best that Trump could have picked. But, you know, the problem we have with the Supreme Court is not the people that we've been putting on it. It is the Supreme Court has seized a bunch of power that they have no right to seize. This is a letter in 1810 from former President Thomas Jefferson to Treasury Secretary Albert Gallatin. Now listen to this. He says, part of it, don't want to read the whole thing, but he says, "I see that old Cushing is dead!" Exclamation mark. That is a godsend to me and the rest of the Republicans. Maybe now we can get a Republican Supreme Court to start ruling correctly. 1810. So, you know, we've been in a battle for that many years, and yet it still stays the same. Congress, they were supposed to be the weakest branch, and they are certainly not the weakest branch, and Congress ought to slap them in line, basically. They've expanded their jurisdiction to where it doesn't need to be. They can, I've actually got a bill written, they can revoke the jurisdiction to where they'll go back and do what they did originally, and they won't be interfering in all of our businesses. But I think he's a good man, and I'm perfect age. I wish he was even younger, because you know, you want somebody that can serve as long as possible. But I think he'll be a good pick. And you know, right. And you know what you tend to get when you have people that are that clean, and I'm not saying it's him, is they've never written any articles, they've never issued any controversial opinions, they hadn't been in the fight. So, you know, I tend not to, he has, so I'm not talking about him, but when you get somebody that's that clean, I tend not to want them because they're an unknown.
Gotta go.
Yeah, got to run into a break. I'll comment on it when we get back. Listen to me, all right? Because I know what you're talking about. Thank you for calling. Got to step into a break. We'll be right back, folks.
talking about 1810.
That's your cue.
All right, welcome back to Armed Alabama. Glad you could hang with us here through the break. Judge, you were going to follow up on a question that the last caller had asked.
Yeah, he had asked about some of the opinions regarding Obama. One in particular was the Obamacare issue, that he also held it was a tax. I think his philosophy was tending to, I won't say curb necessarily executive power, but mold it more to where, right, when Obama was president, he just did anything he wanted to make it more definite. So, I don't certainly want anybody expanding executive power. I don't want them expanding any federal power. The rubber meets the road in the state courts, and that's what we're going to get to in a minute. And did we have another call we want to get to?
Yes, we do.
We have an honored guest.
Yes, we have George is calling from Mobile. Hi, George. Welcome to Armed Alabama.
Hey, George. Which never gets any publicity in movies or books. Well, he did when the Australian did his. Right. Right. Good point. Well, let me tell you a couple of things. I'm what you call an originalist. An originalist believes that the Constitution should be interpreted according to the ordinary terms and words at the time of the ratification. And if you look back, and I consulted about 10 legal dictionaries from 1750 to 1800, the word infringe then meant destroy. We're picking up the word infringe from a copyright infringement, which is kind of like parking over the yellow line in the parking lot. I'm afraid they meant infringe as in it can't be taken away. And so the courts have said that you can do things like keep insane people from having firearms or felons from having firearms. But the thing you mentioned about the militia is pretty interesting, because the Heller case that we had Mr. Heller on a few weeks ago, 10 years ago, said that your right to keep and bear arms exists unconnected with service in any militia, which, because it's got the semicolon there and all of this, but it's an interesting point, because I think what they meant was you should be able to have the arms of an ordinary militiaman or infantryman, and now it is a full automatic M4. And whatever else they carry. It's not an atomic bomb. It's not a B-1 bomber. That's what the nuts always say. What do you think about atomic bombs? But going by that same logic, a person today, assuming they're not crazy or a felon, should be able to have the same arms that an infantryman has in the U.S. Army. But the purists think that. No courts have said it yet. Second Amendment Foundation. Yeah. Second Amendment Foundation. There are places that rent the bird hunting suits and everything. I know one politician that did that. Go to the Second Amendment Foundation. They have filed most of the lawsuits challenging these things, and I don't know whether there's 2ND or SECOND, Second Amendment Foundation. They actually litigate these things. They're a good group. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it. Take care. Well, we have a candidate for Circuit Court of, I'll say, the 13th Judicial Circuit, which it really is. We always say Mobile County, but as you'll find out, your check comes from the state. But I have to give a quote before this because I gave it my investiture. Tacitus, the Roman historian, said, "Judges are best in the beginning. They deteriorate as time passes." So you've got a few years after you're elected that you'll be good, but you'll deteriorate. But this is Harry Satterwhite, who is with us and running for circuit judge. Is it place 6? Did I read that?
Place 6, that's correct.
Good. And you're in the runoff, which is a week from today?
That's correct.
All right.
We have a retiring judge there who's a Democrat, and I'm a Republican. So hopefully we'll have a Republican replace a Democrat.
Yeah, that'd be good. And you, of course, have been around the party for a long time. I've known you there and then, of course, practicing law. And Adam knows you from the party, too. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about, because you've been practicing law a long time.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for having me here, Judge Johnson and Adam.
Glad to have you here.
And I have 3 boys. I guess I call them boys. They're really 2 men and a teenager. But, you know, we have...
You'll always worry about them.
We have a respect for weapons in our house. We've hunted. I've taught them how to handle weapons. I've taught them how to hunt and all the rules, you know.
And I've gone out and tried to shoot clay. What is it? I can shoot trap. What is sporting clays?
Skeet,
Tried to shoot sporting clays with you, and I'm terrible at that. So.
But so I'm thankful for what you do here, and thanks for having the show, and thanks for having me on. I've been practicing law for 24 years. I have a civil practice. I don't represent criminal defendants. We need people to represent criminal defendants, and I'm not saying that we don't need them, but I'm not sure if those kind of folks are make the best judges.
Well, we need people to clean sewers, and man, I appreciate them when our sewer line backs up, but I don't want to be the one doing it.
Right. So I've been a civil lawyer the entire time I've been practicing law.
And that's just like me. I mean, the first criminal jury trial I ever saw, I was the judge.
Right.
And it's not that hard to pick up.
Well, there are no judges down there now, or really that I can think of since I've been practicing law, that came from a criminal defense background and went on the bench. They've all been either civil or they've been in the DA's office and moved on to the bench. So that's not necessary. But anyway, I've knocked on about 450 doors all around Mobile County to talk to people about my campaign.
Do you get questions like, why do you want to move to Washington and be on that? It's just people aren't tuned in, as I say, to the state court system that handle probably 95% of the cases all around the country.
You do have to explain to them what a circuit judge is versus what a district court judge is, that you're the highest judge in the county, and you're going to handle all of the very important critical cases that come before the courts in Mobile County. And, but once you talk to them about it, they understand that, and I just have a good time. It's really fun to go out and talk to everyday average people, and they're all worried about crime.
Yep.
Every person to exactly, all. They're all worried about crime. They've all had property crimes around their house. People are telling me
and that's treated like just nothing, a property crime now.
They have cameras they put up and film it, but they just film some guy that they'll never run down or catch, and it doesn't even help, and the guys will come back again and steal from them again, and the people just really don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, there's this tendency, and it comes frankly from kind of the state bureaucracy of, we don't need to be locking up so many people. And most burglars commit 100 burglaries a year, and I think it's $10,000 a burglary. They're the ones we ought to lock up because it saves us a lot of money in the penitentiary.
And there's so many stories now about folks that have been arrested they're in jail, they get out on a low bond.
Yep.
And they commit other crimes and hurt people, you know?
Why don't we do this? We got to step into a break, but when we get back, there was some controversy. We don't need to get specific, but about a person getting out on a low bond and then repeatedly injuring someone, because those cases kind of scared me a lot. If you want to call us or text us, remember our number is 251-343-0106 here at FM Talk 1065. We're going to step into a short break and be back with Harry Satterwhite, candidate for Circuit Court Judge in Mobile.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you.
Mics are coming on.
Liam Nielsen there, and I understand Harry Satterwhite, he is going to be your bailiff after you're elected. I think the offer is outstanding. You probably won't take it. But we have Harry Satterwhite, a candidate for Circuit Court Judge here in Mobile County, and the election's a week from today. No matter where you live in the county, you can vote for him. And there, I'm trying to think how many races are on the ballot, 4 or 5, they're not a lot. But there's reason to go out. Former Chief Justice Perry Hooper, late Chief Justice Perry Hooper, told me that a circuit judge was the most powerful office in the state. He said you can lock somebody up and it takes, X number of days to even get a habeas petition before another court. And that's why it's so important to have people that are level-headed like you on the bench, because somebody that is bent on bad can do a lot of stuff. But we were talking earlier about bonds, and people may not know this. Several things. In the ordinary course of business, if you're arrested, let's say for assault 1, there's a predetermined bond schedule waiting at the jail. And you can either put the money up or you can get a bail bondsman to put the money up, and you're out, probably in 2 hours. And that was implemented at a time when the jail was real overcrowded, and there's a federal court order ordering them to reduce the number of jail inmates. But the problem I see is, not everybody fits a certain mold. And this one we had recently, a DUI, I can't remember the whole instance, but it just looks like something like that ought to be seen by a judge before a person is released on a serious charge like that. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would be in favor of that. I think if we can get the defendant in front of a judge, he can look at them and he can make decisions based on that defendant and how dangerous he is. People in the community are afraid of the way the system is working right now. They're afraid that we, for some reason, have some judges that are setting these bonds low or sentencing people to sentences that are not that long. And the people they tell me, keep them in jail, put them in jail, and keep them in jail as long as you can. And of course, they have constitutional rights, and we respect that. But by the same token, the entire system, the law enforcement, the judges, the district attorney, need to send a message to people who are criminals, who are convicted, that it's not going to be easy on you. If you commit crimes in our community, there's a lot of people that are going to make it hard on you. And so, and I think we need
They
to
must
send a
not be
message.
fearful of jail because they keep coming back so often.
Right.
You know?
And they get out and they commit crimes the same or worse. There was the one fella that kept getting involved in shooting incidents, and they kept giving him a bond. And I just read him the other day, after like the third shooting incident, he was given another bond. But when he got I think his probation revoked and
Yeah.
went to prison, and I think he may have killed a guy in prison.
Good grief.
So he was doing all that outside of the system, and then he got into prison, and then he's either dead or is accused of killing somebody in prison. So here's a very dangerous person that the system had 3 or 4 times to keep him away from the community, and we didn't do it. And
Yeah.
we've got to find ways to do that.
Right, there's a difference between a first-time offender on a assault charge that may have had a fight at a bar and somebody with arrest and convictions a mile long.
Right.
And they ought to just be considered differently, and I think they're just rubber stamped so often just to make room for everybody else.
Repeat offenders and dangerous people are who we need to focus on and make sure they don't get out in the community and steal things and cause damage or either hurt people.
Yeah, no question about that. And I'm going to give you a copy of this. I was just playing around with the proposed bond order that I happened to find dated 2008 that, may be the basis of kind of working on that. It doesn't deny anybody any of their rights. All it says is, if you're in this category, I think I was telling you, if you've been arrested for 5 felonies at the same time, you're going to have to wait 48 hours and see a judge. You're not going to just be released down there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the judges, within certain parameters, they have to grant bonds, but they can grant a $15,000 cash bond only, and the dangerous person's never going to get out because nobody's going to put up cash. Most people don't realize the bail bond companies, they may have changed it, but I think all they used to have to do is put up a $25,000 CD, and then they can write potentially millions of dollars, it's probably not that much, several $100,000 worth of bonds at the same time based on a $25,000 certificate of deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody takes off. There's not enough money to bring those people in.
Right.
So that's something to look at. Although they do the one job the bail bond companies do, as opposed to just releasing people on a cash bond, is they call them up so they get to court. Because people I found who are criminal defendants tend to move about every week, and they tend not to be punctual or know when their appointments are. So those folks get them to court. So that's good.
Right.
But, I was amazed that they were causing so much trouble over President Trump is separating the illegal immigrants from their families. I did that every week. People would bring their children down to try to make a show. Here are his children. And one time I remember calling Department of Human Resources to pick up the children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anybody to keep them. I said, well, we did.
Well, there's so many things that I see as I watch the news now that the Democrats just take everything and make it into a political issue to try to beat the president over the head with it. And I think it's purely political. You don't see them worried about or protesting about kids who are separated from their parents that commit crimes in the United States. Those kids are just as
10,000 times as many.
and they're just as innocent as the ones down on the border, and they're just as in need of help as the ones on the border, but there's no protest because that doesn't give you any reason to beat Trump over the head.
Yeah.
So they've got something they can try to use against him when the man is simply trying to enforce the borders of our country. I think the Democrats want to basically have open borders.
I do too,
and that's just going to eventually create more Democrats that'll folks that'll vote their way on things.
The sad thing is they used to claim to represent the poor man, the down and out guy, and that's who the illegal immigrants are hurting because they're taking jobs and they're lowering the wage scale. And it's just unbelievable to me that that's. But getting back to judgeships, we were talking earlier, especially in law school, and you went to Alabama, as I recall.
Yes.
You would hardly know state courts exist by going to law school. You're always studying about federal cases, federal law, when the state courts do just about everything. And, people need to realize that, and we get so little money compared to, of course, the feds have a printing press.
Well, it's a very, very important job in our community. I mean, it's one of the most important jobs that you can have. You've got people's lives, at stake here. And when that's sitting in front of you, I'm sure it's very stressful. So I take it very seriously, and I think we
Remember how young I used to look? People used to ask me, "You look too young to be a judge." And after I retired, nobody said, "You look too young to be retired." Not one person said that.
But we need people that have had a lot of experience. I've had experience in a lot of different cases on the civil side, some significant cases with millions of dollars at stake. I've got them right now.
Let me tell you, the civil cases, criminal may have more motions generally attached, but the civil cases are the tough ones. They're the ones that may run, 3 or 4 weeks, and they're tough. And I loved it because it kind of taxed my brain, but
I mean, it can't get more serious than somebody who's died on an operating table,
Right.
And the judge is there presiding over the case, and either the family is going to be upset and disappointed that someone wasn't held responsible for the death of their loved one, or the physician who spent most of his life trying to cure people is going to be found, having committed medical negligence, and probably will be a very bad situation for his career. So
Yeah.
either way, it's not going to be.
I've always said the emotions during a medical malpractice trial are higher than there were in capital murder trials.
Really.
Because, the doctor's reputation is at stake, then you have somebody perhaps killed, so the emotions are just through the roof. Capital murder, most of the time, is just, he's guilty, but is he guilty of capital murder? You're just kind of going through the motions like that. And, yeah, you're right, there's just nothing more serious. I had a case where I think the girl was about 3 or 4, hit by a drunk driver in a mother's car. She was paralyzed from the neck down. And I told, we were settling the case, I said, "I've seen the films, just leave her at home. I don't think I can, I don't think I can take that."
I had a cousin that was killed by a drunk driver about 10 years ago. The fella had been in and out of jail. He'd had, I think they said 6 or 7 arrests for
And
DUI.
treatment, I bet.
Arrests for DUI, but just because you're arrested, when you get to court, you plead it down and plead direct reckless
Officer
driving or whatever.
can't show or whatever, yeah.
So he didn't have the third felony
Yeah.
to put him away, for 3 strikes, but he'd been drinking all night, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning. She was going to work, and he just crossed the center line and hit her, and she passed. And so that's kind of a
It's
sensitive
as
issue.
devastating as somebody who's swinging a rifle around and firing it.
It really
Because
is.
you don't know. Well, Harry, when we get back, I want to talk about the funding shortage that they're currently having right now. I have some ideas about why it's there, but it's really kind of outrageous because the number one duty of the state ought to be personal protection. But we'll be right back after this break, folks. thinking, back with Armed Alabama, when William Mumford, a resident of New Orleans, just took down the Union flag off the Customs House after the Union's in New Orleans, he was hanged by Benjamin Beast Butler. So, you know, I don't know about this newfound right to burn a flag, because 150 years it was illegal, and suddenly they discovered, you know, it wasn't. But I want to get you off subject. What do you think about this funding shortage that the legislature continuously kind of squeezes the court? And we all like to think of, because we're thinking of federal courts. They got plenty of money. The state courts don't.
You know, it affects people. It's not affecting judges as much or lawyers as much as it is affecting the people who have cases in court. And we already have clients all the time that are worried about how much litigation costs. And of course,
And just it hanging over them.
it's hanging over them. They're worried about it, but the longer it takes, usually the more it's going to cost them. And so, you know, with the court cutting back on the funding for the courts are going to be slower to take care of their issues.
And then they take criminal first.
Yeah, and you know, the courts here in Mobile County are overloaded compared to around other parts of the state. And we can't get the funding we need to have more judges here so the caseloads aren't so bad. So don't, your local lawyer is only the messenger.
Yeah.
And somebody else is sending out the message that, you know, that there's not going to be enough to have a speedy trial or get to court and get your cases handled efficiently. It's just going to drag out. And it's not good for the community. It's not good for business.
No.
Businesses need to have their cases handled quickly and over with.
Yeah.
And if they're going to drag out, it's going to cost. So I think the communities around the United States that are, you know, growing and their businesses are prospering, they probably have a good judicial system to handle efficiently the cases that are there, and all the businesses are not going to be drugged down.
One characteristic of third world countries is a lack of a functioning, decent judicial system. They just don't do that. Harry, you've been involved in the Republican Party a long time, so that may give you a little help to talking to some of our legislators and emphasizing how important the public safety and the business court funding and prison funding is.
I think I could, and you know, the reason I'd like to be a judge is because the judges, in my view, are leaders. They're leaders of the lawyers in Mobile, and I've been a lawyer for 24 years, so I would like to lead and set an example and advocate for the judges in Mobile and all around the state. And
I thought we hadn't done a good enough PR job. Most people who come down for jury service think they're going to be down there for a month, and most of the time it's a couple of days. You know, because our trials move quick, as you know. But Adam, I don't want to hog all this, but I do want to remind everybody, Steve Moore, local lawyer, does personal injury. He's a good sponsor of our show. If you have a personal injury issue, call Steve at the Moore Law Firm. Adam?
And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up McCoy Outdoors, our title sponsor of the show. If you are looking for that new firearm, or definitely to go out with this nice, pretty weather we have and go to the range, McCoy Outdoors is definitely the place to go. When you go in there, make sure you tell them that you heard about them from Armed Alabama. So we have in the studio with us tonight, if you haven't heard already, Harry Statawhite. Harry Statawhite is a candidate for Judge Place 6, Circuit Judge Place 6, and I'm glad you could come in here and join us tonight, and we're glad to have you. We talked a little bit earlier tonight about judges being tougher on crime, and some of the items there is, how can you be tougher on crime and tougher on criminals? Is it just given a stiffer sentence? Could you, how do you eliminate that revolving door? Could you talk about what your plan is or what you intend on doing to curb crime and to be harder on criminals?
well, the folks that I talked to asked me the same thing. And of course, a judge can't wave a magic wand and solve our crime problem. We can set higher bonds to keep them in jail longer. We can give them longer sentences. And some of the judges down there don't seem to be doing that right now. But there's some other things that you have to have a respect for our system, and you have to have a respect for law enforcement. These are men and women that are putting their lives on the line every single day to go out and protect us. And, you know, we had a president for 8 years that every time there seemed to be a shooting, a controversial shooting, he jumped on the side of it's the police brutality, it's racism, and that's not fair to the police. That's not fair to law enforcement. It's disrespectful. That trickles down. That trickles down in our communities, and the communities that look up to the president and the ones that were looking up to that president at that time, I think it's the cause of a lot of strife and a lot of division and disrespect for law enforcement. And when you have that kind of situation, you're going to have more crime.
Absolutely. We actually have a call on the line, Judge. I think somebody's wanting to comment on what you made earlier about the lack of budget, and this is Mary from Mobile.
Hey, Mary. How are you? Fine, thank you. What's up? Yeah. Right. Right. You can't do it laying off people. Well, let me give you the quick answer, because he's telling me we got to wrap it up. The quick answer is she was defeated in the Republican primary, so we don't have to fool with her. So next year we'll be able to hopefully straighten it out. But I agree with everything you're saying. Thank you for calling. We got 1 minute left. Hey, I'll go ahead, Adam. Turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Now, Harry, give us your website. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's on the
absolutely.
Armed Alabama page.
It's votesatterwhite.com.
Okay.
There's a Facebook page and a website.
Okay.
And the election is when?
A week from today, July 17th. And you need to get out and vote, no matter who you're going to vote for.
If
please.
you voted, if you didn't vote before, you can vote in this. There's some rumor, about that. Now, if you voted Democrat, you're not supposed to vote in this one, but it's not like people are checking. But if you just didn't vote, you were out of town, sick, whatever, you can vote in because we don't have party registration.
Yeah, and that election is next Tuesday, July 17th. That's correct. So definitely, it's your opportunity to vote and take it seriously.
Absolutely.
Because everybody I've talked about says there's going to be such a lower voter turnout.
Well, we'll hopefully give results declaring you the winner 1 week from
Thank
today
you.
when we see you all then. Thank you for
Judge.
tuning in.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Good show, guys. Advanced is our